Hello, fight fans. Seattle Mike MMA with friends. Everybody, please hit that like button if you like everything violence, boxing, MMA. And if you hit that subscribe button, you're going to join a great community of very knowledgeable fight fans. Don't forget to ring that bell if you do that so you're notified whenever I drop a new video or go live like basically every major boxing and MMA event, including Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. on Thanksgiving weekend. I cannot wait. Bellator's back, oh baby. They had kind of a hiatus. Of course, everybody had a little bit of a hiatus, except for the Ultimate Fighting Championship there. They didn't want to take the clue. Take a hint. They didn't close down for too long. But Bellator they're off of the Paramount Network. They've been off of Spike for a minute. Then they went to Paramount, which just wasn't a good fit. They've been on DAZN also the whole time. But as far as TV is concerned, they just went over to the CBS Sports Network. And they just moved to Thursday nights, which I think is a terrific idea. Because, nobody has plans on Thursday night, and it doesn't interfere with what's going on with the UFC and Bellator. I hated it when it was conflicting. You'd have to choose between UFC and Bellator, and I mean, you know which one we chose pretty much every time. UFC is the major league. If you're wondering when I'll get a Bellator flag behind me, I'd say when they start getting 1 million views a telecast. Then I will gladly order a Bellator flag, or they can send me one. Let's break this card down. I'm going to break down the top 3 fights, starting with Mr. Van Zandt, Austin Vanderford, 9-0, taking on Vinicius de Jesus, 9-3. This is a very close matchup in my mind, and this should be a very exciting fight. For those of you who don't know who Vinicius de Jesus is, he's 9-3. He's got 6 finishes. He's never been finished. One of his losses was right before coming over to Bellator. He fought for the LFA belt. For the LFA championship, went all 5 rounds with the champion over there. And even though he lost the decision, I think it was great experience, and you can see he moved up the ranks a little bit. Bellator's one step up, or 2 from LFA. Now, that being said, he hasn't faced the lights of Bellator. He's faced LFA, but like I said, Bellator, they're a little higher. Out of those 3 losses, one of them was a contested split decision to a kid named Joaquin Buckley. If that name sounds familiar, he's the one who got the spinning karate kick out of this world knockout a couple weeks ago that the whole internet's been on fire about for several weeks. Been called one of the greatest knockouts, if not the greatest knockout in MMA history. It was very impressive. I will say that. It was very impressive. Anyways, back to Vinicius, though. Great fighter on his own. Like I said, fought for a championship over there in LFA, and without a crowd, I don't think the step up is really going to be that big of a deal for him. Now, Austin Vanderford, he's lived under the lights for a while. He's traveled with the wife over in the UFC there, Paige Van Zandt, and he actually looked like he was going to get into the UFC. He was on Dana White Contender Series Season 2, and choked his opponent out in the 2nd round. Finished him, and I thought Dana White's going to give this kid a contract. He's a good-looking kid. He's charismatic. His wife is very popular already over in the UFC, or she was at the time. And I thought this is a no-brainer. And then Dana White calls out the contracts, and I think it was one of those weeks where there was quite a few contracts handed out, but for whatever reason, he decided not to give this kid a contract. So Austin Vanderford, he got a quick knockout somewhere else. I believe it was FFC. And then the last 3 fights he's been in Bellator. So 3-0 over there in Bellator. He's looked very good. He's 3-0 in Bellator. He's got 2 finishes, a knockout and a submission. Man, this is a hard one to pick. If I had to bet, if I had to put my money on it, I might surprise some of you guys. I think I probably will. But I'm going to pick Vinicius de Jesus. I don't know what the odds are on this. DraftKings didn't have anything for this Bellator card. Just DWCS, which is coming up, and UFC. But I'm going to take De Jesus in this to pull off what for most people would probably be the upset. Then let's go to the co-main event. Tyrell Fortune. He is taking on Syed Sona. Tyrell Fortune coming off of his first loss after winning all of his fights. 8-1. Syed, he lost his very first fight, and they kind of threw him to the dogs a little bit there in LFA. It was his first fight, and he fought a guy who was 3-0 with 3 finishes, and Syed became his 4th victory and 4th finish. Since then, Syed got his feet underneath him and, has really put together a good career for himself, a really good career after losing that first fight. Lot of pressure on him right now, though. But 4 of his 6 victories have been by finish, 3 by knockout, 1 by submission. Tyrell Fortune, he's got something to prove right now. His last fight he came out, last one was a no contest from an accidental knee. But before that, earlier this year in 2020, he fought Timothy Johnson, and in the first round, he made a vital mistake. He came in very flat-footed compared to how he is in many fights. And Timothy Johnson's kind of a flat-footed, plodding fighter. But what Fortune did is, I think he got kind of surprised as to where he was in the cage. I don't think he realized he was as close to his back was as close to the cage as it was. Because he kind of looks back for a minute and then backs up from Johnson's shots and puts his hands down and then brings his feet perpendicular to each other. It was a strange thing. I've watched the knockout 6-7 times just before making this video. And he puts his hands down, feet perpendicular. Timothy Johnson lands a picture-perfect overhand right. And knocks him out in the very first round. Expect Fortune to use his wrestling a little more in this one. The only time he's been finished, like I said, it's his only loss. He's an NCAA Division II national champion. Very good wrestling, very athletic guy. He's had very good striking in the past as well. I expect him to come out a little tentative, though, after that happening. I think he'll use his wrestling a little bit more. And I'm going to say Tyrell Fortune wins this one, either unanimous decision or like a late stoppage. If he puts the pressure on with the ground and pound or really starts to wear Syed down around the 3rd round, I think he can take it. But Syed's he's a tough SOB, so Tyrell Fortune cannot take him lightly at all. And that brings us to our main event. Melvin Manhoff, like I said, one of the most violent strikers in the history of combat sports. He's not the same fighter he was when he knocked out Mark Hunt in 2008. In fact, he's 44 years old. They say power's the last thing to go. Since he's been in Bellator, 3 wins, 2 of them by knockout. Pretty good. Still got a lot of power. A lot of people remember his big match up being against Robbie Lawler back in Strikeforce years and years ago. Maybe that was the first time that you remember seeing him. It was the first time I remembered seeing him. I want to say that was around 2011, maybe Strikeforce Miami. That's not in my notes. But anyways, this guy hits hard. Like I said, he knocked Mark Hunt out. He's knocked some people out in his career, and he can take a crack. Corey Anderson, he can crack. He can wrestle. He knocked out Johnny Walker. He proved he could crack. He's taken guys down and wrestled them to death. Struck them to death. He's a busy guy. He's got cardio for days. They call him Corey Overtime Anderson. It's a great nickname for the cardio. One of the things he's had an issue with is his chin. Now, I'm not just talking about that last fight where he decided that he was going to box with Jan Vlahovic. And, hindsight's 20/20, but we all see now what Blachowicz is made of. Ended up taking out Dominic Reyes. I don't think most people expected that, and I don't think most people realize just how good Jan is. So Corey Anderson, maybe underestimated him. Maybe if he had already knocked out Dominic Reyes, maybe he tries to wrestle him right out of the gate, and maybe Corey Anderson takes him out. But Corey Anderson's Achilles heel has been that chin. And he's lost 3 times since the beginning of 2018, and they were all by knockout. One to Jan Blachowicz. He got knocked out in the very first round against Jimmy Manhoeff, almost the exact same time. I think it was in like 7 seconds of what the Blachowicz knockout was. So that was very interesting. But we know what he needs to watch out for. We know he needs to not get hit, and Melvin Manhoff is about as dangerous as they come in the first round. For those first 5 minutes, he is bringing death and fire, even at 44 years old. He's been fighting some tough guys in Bellator, and let me tell you, stay the hell away from this guy. In that first round, he is just bringing death and fire. Corey Anderson gets him to that second round, about halfway through the second round, especially if he's able to lean on him some, get some dirty boxing and stuff. I think that's enough time that he's going to start tiring Melvin Manhoff out. I think he's going to start out wrestling him. Then I think he's going to get him tired. And I'm going to say that Corey Anderson wins this, probably finishes Manhoff about the 4th round. He might get him with a choke. He might get him with strikes, but Manhoff has had issues with wrestlers in the past. He lost to a unanimous decision, was grossly out-wrestled by Brock Larson over in 1FC, and Brock Larson is not near the wrestler that Corey Anderson is. He was submitted by Makhmud Khalidov in one of his fights against a wrestler, so that just kind of shows you his grappling. It's just not there. The guy came from the striking arts. The grappling's not there. If he can get through, I'd say, the first 7-8 minutes of this fight, at that point, this fight is tailor-made for Corey Anderson. But in that first 8 minutes, especially in those first 4 or 5, could be tailor-made for Melvin Manhoff. Tell with 2 stories. Who's going to implement their game plan? I do think it will be Corey Anderson. Like I said, I'm going to predict that Corey Anderson finishes him by in the 4th round. And I'm going to say that he chokes him out in the 4th round. So let me know what you guys think, though. How excited are you about having Bellator on Thursdays now? Something else to watch in the middle of the week. Like I said, not a lot of people have their Thursday nights planned out, I don't think. So that becomes a great thing. And as far as these fights, who do you think wins what? Prelims, guys, I will not be doing the prelims, and let me tell you why. Bellator's hooking you guys up. Go to their YouTube channel, and you can watch the prelims for free on the YouTube channel. So I didn't want to be asking people to have 2 YouTube tabs open, and then they have their own chat in there, and then you have the chat in here, and you're trying to watch me, and you're trying to watch Bellator in the YouTube over in the other corner, and it's a bit much. I wasn't going to ask you guys to do that. What I would love for you guys to do is, if you watch that free prelim, please leave a link to this channel. Shout out that we're doing the main event fight companion. These Bellator events have historically done very well. Actually, all of them have beaten every UFC telecast that isn't a pay-per-view almost since the ESPN deal was signed. So that tells you how popular they are for one thing, and for another thing, how many people, I guess, have ESPN Plus. Most of you guys are watching along as I do this, which is great because I like to get your guys' feedback too. But yeah, let me know what you think of all that. Anything else you want to talk about this week? We're just a few days away from Bellator 251. So we'll be doing the live stream. I'll do the entire main card. Guys, until next time, as always, I love you. I respect you. And I'll see your fine asses later.